So hello everyone, welcome back to our Spiritist group of New York, Spiritism at Noon. And we are going to be continuing what we have started a few months back, which is a study on inner transformation. Self-awareness and inner transformation, of course, under the light of Spiritism. Why is this so important for us? Why do we talk so much about uh, becoming better people or better spirits when we are talking about spiritism? Many times when there are still many people who thinks that when we are talking about spiritism or anything related to spirits, it has to be more with the interchange communications between the two worlds. Of course, when we are talking about spiritism and we are talking about the three aspects of spiritism, that is the philosophy, the moral, ethical / religious that someone may include as well, and the scientific, meaning as the science of understanding exactly how we have this kind of possibility of communication and interacting with spirits. And in this area, mostly we studied the topics on mediumship. But having said that, one of the things that are very important for us, and this is why we keep on insisting on this, is that we realize that not only in our planet here as incarnates, corporeal beings, we use the terminology incarnates, that we will find, we will meet different levels of people. And by this, I mean, not only in terms of knowledge, the way we understand here on this planet, but also in terms of, their morals, their values, and not criticizing here anything, but we know that there are different paths and different avenues for people to go through. And also we understand that by crossing over, by dying, not necessarily we are going to change. Yes, we are going to be having a totally different perspective. Many of us, not all of us, will see that, oh my God, life really goes on, right? But and not necessarily it implies receiving a certificate that I know everything. So we also will find different levels of spirits. And very much like here on Earth, it's easier for us to associate with like minds of corporeal beings and like minds of spiritual beings. So this is how, the work, or us using our resources and energy to improve ourselves, become very important, in the sense that it's going to be easier for us to connect with spirits that are more highly evolved. In this manner, not only we are going to be benefiting for their energy surrounding us, but also from the instructions they can give to us, because we will be more capable of, let's say, even if it's just mind to mind, having a conversation with them, receiving their the inspiration, the necessary inspiration, and being able to understand that. So that is the reason why, when we decided to start this particular study on inner transformation, we had that in mind, and not only into thinking about our relationship with spirits, but our relationship with human beings, our understanding of everything that is happening on Earth, and trying to see what can we do to choose a different path. So we started with talking about, of course, the first thing in terms of self-awareness, that would be know ourselves, right? How can I go into this journey if I'm not really willing to look at myself and really see what I am, and, you know, and have a goal. And then we talk, of course, about humility versus pride. How humbleness play here in the sense that if I keep on thinking that I'm much better than everyone else, or there is nothing wrong, or nothing that I needs to be improved in myself, you know, your self-awareness, your process of inner growth is not going to happen. And if you put pride in the game as well, you know, no, everyone else is wrong, only I am the one that is correct. So the acceptance of what we are and what needs to be done, acceptance of what is happening to us, understanding that above all there is this law of cause and effect that we call, you know, some will say karma. What I throw in the world is going to come back to me, is, you know, the boomerang effect, right? But it's law of cause and effect. And so understand that the good things, the bad things that happen to me, I am responsible for them. Something, you know, in my behavior, in my past experience had made this happen. And how important it is for us to have in the process of all this understanding, also to be patient, to be accepting of what we are and our possibilities as well, right? Sometimes we just can do more than we are doing now, but it doesn't mean that I cannot have a goal and that I cannot say, you know, I'm going to prepare to be able to go in long strides in this path. And so basically, all this study we have been using as basics, the code of moral that we many philosophers consider to be a code of conduct, that is the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes that were said by Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount, and with a correlation with the 13 virtues of Benjamin Franklin. For those who do not remember quite well, Benjamin Franklin, when he was about 21 years old, he wrote a list of virtues that he thought that in order for him to be a good person, he had to exercise in his day-to-day basis. And it's amazing how they are completely in tune with the proposal of the Sermon on the Mount. And this is how we are doing this correlation here. So we have already, today we are going to be reaching, this is 12 lessons study. And today we are going to start the lesson number 6. And so I just made a wrap up about everything that we studied before. And before we started today, I just would like to know if any of you would like to make any comment or has any question. Anyone? All good? Welcome everyone that reached after. So, okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen with you. Okay. So, as I said, oops, sorry. The topic today is forgiveness, mercy, and tolerance and moderation. When we talk about forgiveness, mercy, tolerance, moderation, which is actually some of the advice from Benjamin Franklin as well. Everything that we say here has to do with us in relation to others and us in relation to ourselves. So in terms of being more forgiving with others, with the world, and in being more forgiving and merciful as well in relation to ourselves. Sometimes we will be talking more about that as we progress in our study today and the next few weeks. We have to be really paying attention on how we are judging ourselves as well, and sometimes expecting more than we actually can give at the moment. So since the base is always related to the beatitude, so here, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. So this is the quote that we have from this Sermon on the Mount that are related to our studies today. Many times when we are positioning ourselves in the world, this is what we expect: others to understand us, others to be able to forgive us, but we are not thinking about what we are offering in the world and what we are offering to others. We always will say, oh, okay, but what I did is not as bad as what they did to me. Really? Are you absolutely sure? If we were in inverted roles, you wouldn't be saying perhaps the same? So this is what is very important for us to keep in mind, and also to remember that we all need the mercy of others, the forgiveness of others. So here, mercy consists in forgetting and forgiving offenses. It is proper for the advanced soul to forget offenses and to be above the insults that might be directed towards it. Forgetting here, we are not talking about, losing our capacity to remember things. Okay, maybe we will never forget per se things that has happened in our lives, but it's just a way of leading us to understand what we are talking when we are talking about forgiving. Because bringing the scenes, the remembrance to mind all the time is not good to us as well. Remember that when we are talking about this, we are talking about the connection with spirits as well. When I am releasing this energy of resentment, of hatred, of vengeance out in the world, I'm sending wavelengths and in my antenna and connecting with spirits. There are let's say in the same energy that I am. And so it is in our own benefit as well that having a more balanced mind and emotions, and not to give way to passions that can connect us to spirits. There are not the ones that we want next to us. That is going to benefit us as well in this sense. So when we are talking about this cleansing of the soul, we are talking about, how we are going to be feeling better and relating with ourselves, with others, and also with the spirits. Because this is what we will be attracting. This is what is going to be in our path, in our journey. So what is the true meaning of the word charity as Jesus understood? benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfections of others, and forgiveness of offenses. This is a very important question that we have in the Spirits book about understanding charity. Most of the time when we talk about charity, we are just thinking about giving alms, uh, doing some food drive, things of this nature. And we forget about charity, that means love in action that we can do for each other. And here is when benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness comes into place. And why did you bring that today? Because we are talking about forgiveness. So forgiveness is an act of charity, is an act of sending love into the world, of love in action. But forgiveness doesn't come at, that easy for any of us, right? I'm sure we all have experience with that. And there is one book that we are going to be mentioned here, that he says, how many times do we pay for one mistake? How many times were you accused of having done something wrong for that just one thing that you did? The answer is 1,000 times. Humans are the only animals on earth who pay 1,000 times for the same mistake. I mean, if we meet our friend from middle school, he's going or she is going to say, "Oh, remember when you did that silly stuff when you made something bad, right?" I mean, you're 2-3 decades over that, and people are still referring to past mistakes. And sometimes it's not just because it stayed in their minds, but it stayed in their emotions as well, how they connect with that. So every time we remember, we judge ourselves again, we are guilty again, and we punish ourselves repeatedly. So this is why, and we are going to be talking about that, when we are thinking about our own faults, our own errors, we have to be very careful as well, not to be just beating ourselves up because we did something bad, but, acknowledging it. Remember the self-awareness, acknowledging it, and then just moving on, using the experience not to repeat that again. And this is some quotes that I took from this book, The Gift of Forgiveness by Miguel Ruiz. And he says, a wife or a husband may also remind us of our mistakes so that that we end up judging ourselves, punishing ourselves, and finding ourselves guilty yet again. Is this fair? Every time we remember the mistake, we blame them again and send them all the emotional poison we feel at the injustice. And then we make them pay again for the same mistake. Is that justice? Don Miguel Ruiz. Okay, so I would like to see if any of you would like to make any comment or, say something or. Anyone?
Jussara,
Yes.
yes. It's so beautiful what you're giving here. It's amazing that I'm going through a lot of this, of understanding the forgiving. And I think with all this that you have given us, the most important is that we have to look at ourselves and start from there. And we understand that's very difficult to do at times. But if we continuously look at ourselves and see what we really are doing deep down inside of us, we will start repairing that and not going through blaming ourselves, but renewing ourselves every morning, every night. Repeat, trying to remember, what have we done anything to anybody tonight, today? Hopefully, when you get up in the morning, you say, I'll do my best today. God be with me, help me. You know, I for me, I'm listening to this beautiful meaning that you're giving us. I look at myself and just try to do the best that I can every day. And yes, we're gonna make our mistakes. It's only logical. We are not perfect, but it's a job and it's work. Understanding the charity, the benevolence, to be kind. It's all a work that we're here for. That's who we are, spiritual beings that are here now, trying to be the best that we can before our time is up in this physical world. I don't know. I don't know if it's the correct way of seeing it, but I thank you for all this. That it's so important to look at ourselves, not blaming, but working for it. And so this understanding and listening to it and studying it, this is how we move forward and help us to live better lives.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Anya.
Read something last week, a scientific analysis about the human mind. And they mentions about the human keep the more in the memory more bad facts than they remind about the good things happen in their life. Then bring things for forgiveness. Then it's like we need to program again our mind instead to keep the bad factors in our mind. Then we need to remember more good facts happen in our life. Then we can balance things and make it this way easy for our hearts to face in the bad moments and make it easy to forgive.
Wow, that's incredible, Sonia, because this is so true. How much and why is that, right? That we pay so much attention and store the information that are more poisonous to us, more detrimental to our good mental health than the good ones. And you said it well, it's a matter of reprogramming. That's why, when we are talking, when we talk about and we are studying about spiritism, and because of these three aspects, many people like all the things more related to philosophy or to the science, that is mediumship. And when it comes to this ethical moral, it's always the hardest one, because first of all, we don't understand that part quite well, and we still have a lot of misconceptions and prejudice and all of this, and it is the hard part. I don't want it to be looking at myself and seeing that, okay, I read all this that we have just read now, and I cannot guarantee that I'm not going to act on it today, that I will not meet someone today that I will say, oh my God, I still hold this grudge against you because you did say that to me 2 years ago, and do not understand that I'm the one carrying all this, and all these bad memories, not allowing myself to be surrounded by this good energy. That's why, sometimes I joke here about the bad news at 11, right? When right before you go to bed, you watch the news, and you go to bed with all that, things that are pertinent still to human behavior. And I think one way for us to start doing it is being aware of that, and being aware that we are keeping more the bad than the good. is really something, right? No one is obliging us to do that. It's our choice, right?
Yes.
You know, keeping this emotional poison, as it says here, right?
Yes, and actually, it's our not ability to understand others.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we keep the bad memory, in fact, means for me,
Mm-hmm.
You are not able to understand the others.
Mm-hmm.
Others, because when you keep this path in your life to try to understand the others, the same way many years ago, I'm not able to understand about this lecture today.
Mm-hmm.
People around me not yet take this path
Mm-hmm.
to understand them, how important is our inner transformation.
Yeah.
This is the way we need, as Jesus mentions, about benevolence, understand, mercy,
Mm-hmm.
to, because the others doesn't know yet. And then make it easy for us to forgive when you understand why people hurt you.
And you see, when we think about that, in terms of how hard it is for us to overcome, right, the bad experiences, let's call it in a general way, the bad experiences that we had in this life, be that of our own doing or others, because of others. If we are going to put into this equation our previous existences, so the forgetfulness of the past in this sense is a blessing to us. And it's still, there are so many people that they will want to know what you were in the past and in the minute details of all that. When we cannot even deal with the past of one existence and the forgiveness we have to apply in this one existence. So we have to really, uh, uh, let's say, be grateful to the wisdom of the Creator because of that. Yes, we are curious, we want to know, we would like to see ourselves in, you know, one of those characters in the past, but I mean, it comes with all the load that has happened during this time. Okay, anyone else would like to say anything, or we go ahead?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
One thing I find is we can only give to others what we give to ourselves. It has to start there, whether that's love, respect, or forgiveness. Once we start giving these to ourselves, it becomes so much easier to truthfully start handing it out to others. But if we can't, where are we going to start? I see it time and time again.
You are absolutely right, Michael. This is why we emphasize, sometimes, you know, it may come across even as being selfish, you know, when we say you have to love yourself, you have to forgive yourself, you have to respect yourself, you have to, you know, put the mask on the plane first in yourself and then in others. It's exactly that, because how can I give something that I'm not able to give to myself? So if I don't love myself, if I criticize myself all the time, this again, I always emphasize that as well, doesn't mean that we just will cross our arms and say, you know, I was born this way, I'm going to die this way, and this is it. that it is what I can give. No, we are here to grow, to progress. We do that in so many different aspects in our lives. And of course, this our goal being spiritual is the same thing with these emotions. But it's the first exercise, learning to be forgiving to ourselves, to our understanding to our lack of possibilities, loving ourselves the way we are. And so this is absolutely the first step. If we are not capable of doing that to ourselves, we are not going to be capable to do that to others.
I think the first step, and where people might run into trouble, is they miss the first step, being listening to oneself. If you're not listening, you might fall into the ego traps. But if you're listening, you'll be able to tell, well, no, that isn't actually self-love. That's me just doing a bad habit. But if you start listening here, you can, well, that's the spirit that will guide you. And it'll only open new doors outward as well as inward.
Yes, because you see, and this is why we said the first step is this listening is the self-awareness, right? Is me trying to know myself, we've been hearing from ancient times, and not being afraid of hearing what I have to hear about me, right? Of course, we want to, like I always say, be able to look in the mirror and say, oh, I like what I see. And I'm meaning metaphorically in terms of me emotions, not me physically speaking. But it's not always going to be like this. But if there is only one way for me to change things, which is this, the listening, the observing, being aware, and start doing the work with myself. And one thing that is very important from what you said as well, Michael, is that when I'm capable of doing that and start unload myself of all this negativity and this self-criticism, feeling lighter, we will understand how positive this can an impact this can make in other people's lives as well. So this is what will lead us to become nicer to others as well, because now I have the experience of knowing what this love, forgiveness, and respect means, and self-respect means. And ridding ourselves of all this heavy load will make us relate to the world in a different way as well, being more compassionate many times as well. Okay, so recognize that it's not your job and you have no right to repeatedly punish another person or yourself for making a mistake. As a human being, it's only your job to forgive, to love, to heal, and to grow. And of course, to forgive always. So in continuation of what we were saying, this is the way, this is the direction we should be taking in any case. Trying to be understanding. If someone did something to you one day, sometimes, we all have good days and bad days. And the way we are going to react to others, we don't know what those people are going through. And even if they didn't have an excuse to behave that way, maybe, this was the best that they could do at that moment. And we should not be connected to this. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was you. So this is another thing. Sometimes, we hold that grudge against someone, thinking that the person has any interest, has an interest in us as well. And sometimes, you know, they don't even remember us. They didn't even know why we, every time we meet, we have this long face or anything in relation to them. So we are the one, like you were saying, Sonia, is storing this bad remembrances, this bad emotion, like, you know, when someone bumps by accident and at you in the street, and you always say, well, you know, we always have this kind of reaction, right? And sometimes, you know, the person is just out in their own world, are not even thinking about it, and we are the one is storing all this poison emotions within ourselves. Any comments or questions? Should we go on?
Yeah, I have something to
Yes.
say about it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So my friend once told me that I think somebody stole something, and you know, that's upsetting enough. But she told me, well, maybe that person needed it for a sick child, you know. And I know it may sound silly, you know, to justify it like that, but it helps. It helps. Or like somebody cuts in somebody in front of traffic, you know, in traffic, and if that person says, well, maybe they're rushing to get their sick, you know, mother to the hospital, or the wife is pregnant, because the mind can create any scenarios, and it always really goes to the negative, you know, because it just reflects, I guess, my own state of mind, you know. So that can also help to take the sting off. So you don't even have to actually need to forgive, just, you know, explain it to your mind. That's, even if it's just, you know, story, but it could help.
Yeah, that's a wonderful addition that you brought to us, because this is you know, first of all, it's always related to how self-centered we are, right? We always think that we are the center of the universe and everyone should be paying attention to us. Listen, I'm moving, so everyone look at me and don't bump at me and don't do anything bad to me. And it's exactly like you said, we don't know what goes on in other people's lives, and that particular moment. Sometimes, you know, when I take the subway, I try to observe everyone's state of mind around me. And you come across, you know, different things, of course. People that are completely oblivious to everything, people that you see so much sadness and even happiness as well. I mean, and sometimes when I see those people that have so much sadness, and you can see the aura of sadness around them, I think, oh my God, I cannot imagine what this person must be going through now to present, so that you see the features of the person so heavy, so affected by this kind of sadness. So we send a good vibration. We send you know, a prayer in their direction. But it's exactly what you said. We don't know, and I think that following this example that you gave, many times than not, people are really going through stuff, right? Let's look at our own experience. We are always going through stuff, right?
It's true.
Yeah. So forgiveness and health. People who forgive others experience reductions in feelings of nervousness, restlessness, and hopelessness. Forgiveness lowers the blood pressure and heart rates and reduce chronic pain and symptoms from anxiety, depression, or stress. Any mental or physical distress you feel now about the situation or grudge comes from current hurt feelings, not from the original offense or hurt experience in the past. If we wanted to discard all the spiritual things that are related to this as well, not only in relation to us, but in relation to others, or like we were saying, spiritual connections that we will be talking more later on. If it was just by the fact that it impacts so much our physical health. And this is something that doctors are saying today. It's not just, us, the spiritists, the spiritualists, the spiritual people that are saying that. They have, been conducting research in terms of, the power of forgiveness, the power of prayers, the power of good thoughts. I mean, you see all this transformation that have been come from many different routes in terms of philosophies as well, and how we can be according to the reaction impacting ourselves. That punch in the stomach, for instance, that we receive when you receive a bad news, right? We know that our emotions will be making an impact in our physical body. So negative emotions are recorded in our cellular memory. They remain constantly in the background, affecting our health, producing traumas and emotional blockages. That's what you were mentioning, right, Sonia? How we are capable, or so far more capable, of storing those negative emotions. And if we wanted to keep balance, if we wanted to have, more control of our physical health, one of the items should be forgiveness as well. So we have this one of the doctors that we are going to be mentioning here, Dr. Fred Luskin, forgive for good. So he is one of the researchers that been conducting those studies on health, benefits of forgiveness, everything related to that is a counseling in health and psychology from the Stanford University. And one thing that he has said that we need is this little pill that is called Forgive and All, right? The practice of forgiveness has been shown to reduce anger, hurt, depression, and stress, and it leads to greater feelings of hope, peace, compassion, and self-confidence. Practicing forgiveness leads to healthy relationships as well as physical health. It also influences our attitudes, which open the heart to kindness, beauty, and love. So one of the things that he says first, know exactly how you feel about what happened and be able to articulate what about the situation is not okay. Then tell a trusted couple of people about your experience. Make a commitment to yourself to do what you have to do to feel better. Forgiveness is for you and not for anyone else. Forgiveness does not necessarily mean reconciliation with the person who hurt you or condoning with their action. What you are after is to find peace. Get the right perspective on what is happening. Recognize that your primary distress is coming from the hurt feelings, thoughts, and physical upset. You are suffering now, not what offended you 2 minutes or 10 years ago. So those are some of the points that we have in this book, Forgive for Good, and that can help us in this situation. Again, remembering that we are doing that for ourselves, for us to feel good with ourselves, to find peace. It doesn't mean that we are condoning what others are doing, but remembering that everything that we keep stored in us is going to be affecting us. And he goes, at the moment you feel upset, practice a simple stress management technique to soothe your body's flight or fight response. Give up expecting things from other people or your life that they do not choose to give you. Recognize the unenforceable rules you have for your health, such as how you or other people must behave. Remind yourself that you can hope for health, love, peace, and prosperity and work hard to get them. Put your energy into looking for another way to get your positive goals matched. than through the experience that has hurt you. Instead of mentally replaying your hurt, seek out new ways to get what you want. Remember that a life well lived is your best revenge, instead of focusing on your unwounded feelings and thereby giving the person who caused you pain power over you. Learn to look for love, beauty, and kindness around you. Forgiveness is about personal power. Amend your grievances story to remind you the heroic choice to forgive. So here are some of, the techniques that we will find in this book. And I mean, of course, we do not emphasize or, want to say here that you have to go look for personal revenge. But if you still are motivated by that, you just say, look how good I am, and I'm not even thinking about everything that was done to me at this point. So, and always remembering this phrase from Gandhi, an eye for an eye will make the whole humanity blind. Okay, so I'll be stopping today, and we'll continue this with this topic next week, but we still have time for comments and questions. So I will stop sharing. So if you wanted to bring something more or have any comment you would like to make, anything? Any questions?
About techniques, and last week's, then every time when something come to my mind about bad experience in the past or someone who hurt me, then I immediately start to talk with this person.
Mhm.
Of course, actually, I'm talking with myself,
Mhm.
but because I always talked up, then make it easy for me suddenly understand the other person. And in this movement and practice, it's like going to this kind of exercise make me feel floating, free from this kind of bad emotion that I had. It's like, oh, leave this on out of my life, out of inside myself. I don't want this anymore. This not inside myself anymore.
Mhm.
And this practice is going good for me.
That's
Good
great.
for me. Because to forgive it's not easy. Need to a time to digest, to understand, and to really feel free. Put this out of our emotion or our mind.
Mhm. You see, one thing that I think perhaps got in the way of us understanding the need and the power of forgiveness is because many times it's just associated with religious values. When Jesus said, forgive others, love your enemies, and all that, and so it is too easy a connection for us to make with just pure religious values, overlooking the fact of what is behind all that. And now, like we see, so many research is being conducted and showing and proving, and clinics and organizations, not-for-profit organizations that we have of, people to meet and to have those conversations of, forgiving each other. There was even a movie with Lion Neeson that I think we will see in one of the maybe next week or the following one about this movie as well. So we see that now from a more perspective, from a different perspective, more scientific one, and how this impacts us, not only our physical health, but our mental health as well. So when Jesus was saying that, it was not just from, a religious perspective of, what the church or the churches would want to do, but he couldn't explain, that when you start nourishing hatred, your chemical, the chemicals of your brains are going to be affected, and it will lead you to a state of mental depression, your blood pressure is going to become higher, and it is going to affect your digestive system. All of this that today we understand. So now, like I said, even if you do not come from a more or a religious approach, it doesn't matter. We have the research now, we have the facts, and now we can look or revisit all that with a different perspective. So, and I guess that when we start doing that and not having this a prejudice or misconception about, oh, this is for, those kind of people, there are religious, spiritual, or whatever, not for me. But you start thinking now, how we feel. And like you said, right, Sonia, with your example there, how much better you're feeling about it, being able of reading yourself. Are we going to able to be reading ourselves of everything? No. There are things that are too deep in our minds, in our souls. But okay, let's not dismay. Let's start with the little things, right? There are traumas that are too big. There are questions that are too big. And we may still not be capable of dealing with them now and understanding them now. But the more we do that, and again, from our spiritual health perspective, it's so much better for us, for how we are going to feel, how we are going to be connecting with, the mentors, the benefactors, the ones that want to be close to us and assist us. Okay, any other question or comment or anything?
I loved what Sonia was said, and one technique I've used myself and shared with my clients. Often we do have people we cannot talk to for forgiveness, or they just won't. and this is where you can use this. Write down the conversation as accurately like it's really happening. Say what you need to say, but here you can control what they're going to say. And it doesn't matter if they wouldn't or they can't, if they passed on and for some reason you can't contact them. The beautiful thing of this is when you read this to yourself before bed, your mind will interpret it as a real conversation. Often enough. As far as your subconscious, as your spirit is concerned, this conversation really happened. And this gives you an incredible amount of control. Use it wisely. But for those really difficult conversations that you deserve, use it.
Yeah, that's a very good technique, Michael. A very good technique. Anyone else would like to say anything?
Yes, I would like to mention something.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman, he was a businessman. His name was Lester Levinson,
Mhm.
and he lived in Manhattan. And he essentially had I don't know if it was the 70s or 80s, but it was before the development of, or all the progress that have been done, the surgeries and heart surgeries and bypass surgeries. His
Mhm.
heart was not doing well, and he was sent home to die. The doctor said, essentially, Lester, we have nothing, we cannot do anything for you. Sorry about that. So he
Mhm.
was living in a Manhattan penthouse, and he went home, and he stayed there, I don't know, maybe a month, but he started to forgive. He looked at all his relationships and how the girlfriend left him, and how he was abandoned and everything, all the grudges. He went through everything, and he just sorted through it. And at the end, he realized that he, like you said, just are like that he didn't want anything from anybody. Like he got himself to that point that, okay, I don't. He was able to resolve, all the pain that he had felt, I guess, in his heart, and he started to feel so light that I remember that
Yeah.
hearing that like at 3 a.m., in Manhattan, he was like skipping, outside. He had some, of course, his heart healed, his diabetes went away, So I found that very encouraging, that so much lightness is there available. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow. What a beautiful story. Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes, like with this example that you're giving, we forget how much, these emotions weigh on us, right? I mean, we are always so focused on what is looks more tangible, right? And and we forget how much, this connection with goodness, this reading ourselves of negative thoughts, and it can actually benefit us. So this is what we were about today, and always with, uh, the main aim is really to think about ourselves, to better ourselves. But in this way, we are going to be changing our surroundings as well, not only the physical one, but the spiritual ones as also. Okay. Okay, so we are going to be stopping our recording now.